It's Judgment Day, guys. The world's last remaining superpower is about to elect its next president, which has dramatic consequences, of course, for all of us. This is Pennsylvania. It is a working-class heartland, and it is notable that both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are campaigning across this state on the last day of the election. That's because this state will help determine, very likely, who ends up in the White House. A couple of things I want to explore here. I want to explore how the flatlining of wages for so many American workers, for most American workers in real terms, since the 1970s, how that's driven a lot of the anger and division, which has manifested itself in various different ways. And I want to find out about if Kamala Harris ends up president, will her supporters who've lined up, in some cases, to stop Donald Trump becoming president, are they going to hold her to account and take on the divisions which define this country? We've got a lot to go and investigate. We'll go to Trump and Harris rallies. And I just want to ask as well, why do you think Trump's doing so well here? Because, I mean, it's 50-50, who knows how Pennsylvania's going to go, but he's got a big base. What's that about?
I don't know. I think it's probably because people are a lot more grounded here.
So since I've moved here, it's definitely a lot more poverty, unfortunately.
Do you think that's to do with a lot the decline of steel and industries? That used to be the beating heart.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore, so their backbone, once it left, they had to adjust to it, so.
Now, one of the things I'm really interested in is the phenomenon of working class support for Donald Trump. It exists. I might not like it. I might find it uncomfortable. But some working class Americans believe that their class interests are best served by voting for a very right-wing, very rich mogul, Donald Trump. Why? What's going on? So this is the perfect place to do it. Pennsylvania, formerly industrial state. I'm in Steel City. I was born in the British Steel City, Sheffield. So I think I kind of get the gist of what that's like. It's fallen on harder times often for many people because of that decline. So I'm going to talk to them about what that means and why they're backing Trump as a result.
They tried to kill him because he was against their revolution.
I was a coal miner.
Are people in Pennsylvania proud of that mining past, being an industrial state?
Well, yes, they were. Well, they still are, but it's gone now.
Are you sad about that?
They closed them all down.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's a shame. It's a pity.
Were you proud to be a miner?
Yeah, I was proud to be a coal miner. I've been a foreman for over 20 years. I retired about 15 years ago, and I started when I was 18. That's all I ever did.
I mean, just lastly, do you think Trump, because Trump's a very rich man, let's be honest, he's a rich guy. Do you really think the people around him and him do you really think it's working people that they really care about?
I think he cares about people like me, yes.
Yeah?
Yes, I do.
Why Trump for you?
Why Trump for me? Because I truly believe he cares about the people. He doesn't need the job. All these politicians are just that, politicians. They're in it for the money and about themselves. As much as they promote, the left says that Trump is all about him and his friends. He don't need to do this. Why would you take a chance of getting shot and everything else for why, unless he really believed in what he was doing?
The power?
He has all the power he needs. Well, how much more can you use?
Most powerful person on earth, if you're US president.
Well, that's not even true. I would say that someone like Elon Musk got more power than a president.
Do you think? I mean, he just runs
Absolutely.
Twitter.
He's a billionaire. He got more money. Money equals power, right? And he's even Musk is not about power.
Does that worry you a bit that we have a world where the more money you are, the more powerful you are? Isn't that a bit unfair?
Does that worry me? Only if it was leaning in the other direction. But for me, it's not.
What direction?
The left would open borders and not taking care of your own people first as a priority over taking care of the rest of the world. How can you take care of your family and, not take care of your family, but help your neighbor?
That's what I was going to ask you about, say working class Americans. I mean, 7 out of 10 American workers, take out inflation, are no better off than they were when Nixon was in power. What the hell has happened in the United States? Why? Because rich people have got richer and richer and richer, but working class people haven't. Why?
But what people don't understand that we work for the rich people. They're the ones that create the businesses, the jobs, the factories.
But the workers are the ones who create the wealth.
That's fine, but somebody has to do it. If not him, who else is going to do it?
But don't you think it's the workers who put in the real hard work?
And then someone like Trump, he's all about the blue-collar worker. He spends more time with his help than he does in the office, when he's not running for office.
As a businessman, people said, I mean, the evidence showed workers didn't have a very good deal as his, him being the boss, in terms of what they were paid, in terms of their rights.
Well, I don't know, you see that a lot of times you see that the rich people pay less taxes than their secretary. Okay.
But that's not fair, is it?
Not at all. But the thing is, they made the rules. The government, the federal employees, the senators and stuff. And I think there should be term limits for everything,
Do you think it's unfair that, we have a world, what you're talking about is a world run by the rich for the rich? And I don't know, it just seems like you're saying that's the way the world is, but should it be?
Well, that's the way it's been since the beginning of time. You have different classes of people. That's where you get first-class tickets, second-class tickets, third-class tickets. People with the third-class tickets used to be in the bottom of the boat. Second class was in the middle. First class was on top.
And that's what you did by trade. But
I own a shop, auto repair business.
Yeah, I mean, you're there, you're grafting, you're doing a very useful service that people rely on, and you're being paid a lot less than a lot of rich people who, frankly, are just selling stuff people don't even need. Do you really think that is fair?
Actually, I do. And the reason I say that, it's my choice. I made that decision to stay at this level of wealth. Where in this country, if you want to succeed and go even further, you have the opportunity.
I think you're doing yourself down. I think you do something really, really important. And I think people like you should be paid more than people who, I don't know, just sell things that make people ill and they get huge amounts of money for it.
Well, I agree with that. Like all these pharmaceutical companies are loading us up
I meant more
chemicals and drugs and stuff.
Like fast food, I meant that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's better opportunities out there than what I do, but I'm proud of what I do. And
you're
I do
more
it for me.
Your job is more important than a lot of the jobs that rich people do, but they're getting loads of money, and I don't know how much you earn, but you obviously earn a lot less than them.
Yeah, this is true, but there again, they either got schooled, educated, or fell into it. And that's
they had rich parents, or they were just lucky.
Well, I totally agree with that. But the thing is, I don't envy them. I work hard for what I do and what I get and what I earn, and I'm happy with that.
What am I here?
Yeah, I mean, probably because you're a big fan.
Yes, I am. And we support Trump. We need him. We're done. Our country's done.
In what way is it done?
Well, we're going to crash. Our markets will crash. We're on the brink of World War III. It's bad out there. And other countries, I think, depend on us to a point. And if we go down, they're going to suffer also. So, yes, I do feel that we need to get Trump elected.
So with the World War III, it comes up a lot, and it's bad out there, I get that. I mean, do you think he's the stabilizer? You think he's the kind of cool head in the room?
Did you pay attention to his last term? Yes, he was a stabilizer. There were no wars.
Well, there was still war happening. I mean, it might not have been involved people in America, but the wars were there, weren't they?
Well, there weren't really that many wars. Ukraine wouldn't have been invaded.
If Trump had been president, why do you think Putin would have gone, I was thinking of invading Ukraine, but no, I'm not going to do it?
Because I think he was afraid of what Trump would do. I think he realized that Trump could be a little nutty.
But doesn't that mean, because I agree, World War III, but then it isn't the idea that Trump could have just hit the nuclear button, as you suggested, that would have been World War III then?
Yes, but I don't believe that he would have done that.
But then Putin wouldn't have believed it either.
There are a lot of ways that Trump could have hurt him, could have put sanctions on him, he could have hurt the Russian people.
Well, they've done sanctions. There are loads of sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, there are loads of sanctions, but there could have been a lot more. It could have gotten a lot worse.
Which one? Which sanctions?
Well, he could have actually stopped Russian people from coming to the United States. He could have sent all the students home.
Are there any Russians? There's not. I mean, there's Russian exiles. I mean them.
Well, I don't mean exiles. I mean students that are here studying.
Do you think that would have stopped him invading Ukraine? Russian students not being able to study in an American university?
I really do believe that Trump would have been able to. I don't know. I don't want to say anything.
No, I didn't say it. He's not nasty.
No, I don't want to say anything nasty. I think they were afraid of Trump. They were afraid of what he would.
I know. I'm just interested because you talk about World War III being a risk, but then you're saying they're afraid of what he'd do. But that makes me think he might just get a little bit unpredictable and just hit the button.
Well, he is a little bit unpredictable, but you don't know what he's going to do. That's why he's unpredictable.
Could we have World War?
Hit the button. I don't believe.
Then we could have World War III. Oh, you don't. They can't be that unpredictable. If he's not doing World War III, then he's less unpredictable.
Give them back, baby girl, that's just what we do. Yo, shout out to my homies out here with the cameras. We gotta run this cause we got some good stamina. Just give me a word, anything that you want, we kicking a freestyle. You know the people see how we show.
So when you hear people who work for him say he's a fascist, what do you think?
I agree.
Do you think fascism is possible in this country?
I think that if we aren't careful, yes it is.
So if Trump wins, you think that's where things are heading?
I think that is a strong possibility if he wins, as long as the Congress is also Republican.
I mean, I was chatting to people at the Trump rally, and the sorts of people who I would have expected generations ago to always vote Democrat, like, working people.
Yeah, that's really changed in the past several years since the Republican Party has convinced those people, many of them, that they are the saviors for what has happened to the economy. So it's.
How do you think that? Why do you think that's happened in terms of working people who they're voting for a rich, right-wing, very rich guy? You wouldn't expect him to be their icon.
I don't know. If I knew the answer, I think he'd be very rich or very powerful.
When we went to the Trump rally, and we met people who were working-class Americans who were voting for Trump, and they saw him as the guy to stand up for working people. What's that about? How would you explain that?
Racism. They don't want there to be another black president.
That's it. So it's basically,
yeah. That's it. So you have to. What are you going to say? We don't have another black president. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So they have to complain about. Let's make it about the border. Well, they wanted to make the border the issue from the day, but they're the ones who had Democrats suckered them. What they did was they went ahead and said, you know what? Let's pass the most comprehensive immigration laws we could ever pass. Things that Republicans have been asking for years, for decades.
Is that a good thing? Like stealing their right-wing policies? I don't know.
No, it wasn't stealing. It was like, we're going to let you show your hand. Okay. So they already knew that Trump was going to go ahead and make his calls and say, go ahead and squash this.
We were at the Trump rally, and we met people who were from...
You were at the Trump rally?
I know. Well, that's our job. That's my job. So, and some of those were working-class Americans who traditionally would always have been Democrats. Yeah. But they were saying Donald Trump's the kind of savior of working people. What's happening there? How do you explain that?
Yeah, propaganda. We have a real problem in the U.S. with propaganda, and the mainstream media does not cover Trump fairly. I say that's probably because of big money that supports mainstream media. The reason Kamala Harris has been so successful is she tapped into outside mainstream media. So there's a lot of propaganda. A lot of people who Trump will do nothing for have always embraced him. It is cultish, but it's all propaganda. They do not understand. They have no concept.
By conservative media.
Yeah, they have no idea what they're actually voting for. Come on in here. He's an independent.
Well, my other question was, just my final question, was on the other side, I met people who naturally would have voted Democrat, but they can't because of Israel's onslaught against Gaza. They just can't. What would you say about that?
So my own daughter, who I love dearly, is voted for Jill Stein, but she lives in California. She's not in a swing state, so it doesn't really matter. I think that's ignorance. I think that is being intellectually lazy. We all care about Gaza.
How would that win? That's not going to win people over, is it? If they're looking at what they consider genocide and mass slaughter.
Because, again, they have been swayed to believe that that is the only issue they should vote for.
It's just lots of dead people slaughtered, children shot on their heads, blown apart.
Trust me.
With American weapons.
I could not agree with you more. But let's be honest, you and me here. Let's have an actual honest discussion about this. The situation in the Mideast is not that simple. You and I can't reduce it to a soundbite. Yes, American money goes to Israel.
Well, weapons, which kill lots of people.
Yes. Our support, 100%. I agree with you on that. But again, understand Hamas is a force that has committed grave damage to Israel. Again, we can't solve this. You and I sitting here, Netanyahu needs to get his ass to the table and negotiate, and shame on the fact that Donald Trump has been lobbying him when he shouldn't have been, as a personal citizen, to stay away from the table for the benefit of the election. Again, you and I can't solve the Mideast in this conversation.
No, just lastly,
I am not glossing over Gaza. It is atrocious what's happened in Gaza, but again, Hamas needs to be reined in. Netanyahu needs to come to the table.
But no one denies Hamas has committed grave war crimes, but Israel has committed far deadlier war crimes with US weapons.
I think there's all kinds of blame that can be laid. This is not a one-issue election. I am distressed and dismayed by Gaza. However, this is about reproductive freedom, LGBTQ plus rights. It is about taxation. It is
But what about people see genocide is far more important than all of those issues?
I think
Obviously,
you're
just here for one issue.
Yeah,
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I
No.
wish you the best.
No, it's just an important issue, that's all. All right. Wish them the best as well. Thinking about voters with Disillusion been travelling around the country, went to Dearborn in Michigan, and a lot of natural Democratic voters just can't vote for the Democrats because of the arming of Israel and Gaza. What would you say to those voters?
There's a lot of question right now about policies and plans and everything, but at this point, it's a threat against our democracy, and it's a threat against.
No choice.
Yeah, there's no choice. It's not a question. You have to vote for Harris. I mean, our democracy is at risk if you don't.
Are you unhappy? Are you unhappy about the choice and offer? Then you're doing it more because of the stakes.
Yeah.
I can't vote for Trump, but I will vote for Harris. I was going to vote for her anyway, but I just feel like there is no choice. Like, Trump is not an option.
So my final question is, when she's in power, do you think people like yourself who preserving democracy, number one issue, but put pressure on her and her administration to do better things than she's currently offering?
Will we put pressure? Sure, yeah.
Do you think there's a plan to do that amongst certain people?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's much better than our alternative, but I definitely think that Kamala Harris she treats everyone like humans. She recognizes that, and I think she definitely has a history of listening to her supporters, and I think she will do the right thing.
What's driving, do you think, Trump support here? How would you explain it?
Do you want me to be totally honest?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that at this point, most Trump voters are either bad people or they're low information voters. So this is to say that they're either easily manipulable or want bad things to happen to other people.
What's that say about the United States? If that's half the country gone, to be honest, if I'm going to be frank with you.
What that says about the country is that our institutions and our institutions of politics and our media, particularly the relationship of our media to our governmental institutions, aren't as invulnerable as we believed, right? So things that we've seen happen in other countries throughout the global south can and do happen here in terms of manipulation of the electorate and pitting people against one another based on ideological grounds.
How would you win that? I mean, if a Trump voter heard that, they're not going to go, oh, you're right, I'm off to vote Democrat. They'd be like, well, fuck you then. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The Democratic Party has done a pretty terrible job over the past 3 decades keeping its promises to the white working class and to the working poor. So it is no kind of fault of early Trump voters that they were, manipulated in the way that they were. So I feel like if the question is kind of how to win them back, how do Democrats do that? I don't know that the Democratic Party can win them back. I think that there needs to be a concerted effort on the part of the American governmental system to rebuild trust, because it's lost a considerable amount of trust over the past 30 years to half century, and that's deservedly so. Like, it hasn't done much to instill trust.
You're probably not here to be like, yeah, Kamala Harris.
No, I'm not. I mean, truthfully, I think that Trump is still a terrible option comparatively. So I think people see me and they're afraid to interact with me because they automatically assume that I'm not voting for Harris. But I've been struggling a lot with this, but I am voting for Harris because I think that Trump will be even worse for Palestine and Lebanon. But I just think it's important to pressure every second possible because clearly Kamala and Waltz are very pro-Israel. And so I think that it's important to pressure every second leading up to the election. I don't feel good about this vote. I was very much like Jill Stein. I do love Jill Stein, but I think it's just unrealistic to expect that our bipartisan system, in our bipartisan system, that someone like Jill Stein is going to win, because she's unfortunately not.
When I spoke to people in there, about this, they were a bit like, look, that's just one issue. We've got all these other issues. And someone actually said to me, I've got to think about me now, in response, when I talked about Gaza. What do you say to those people?
So, I mean, I don't think, people have told me before that this is, just voting based on one issue, and I don't agree with that at all. I think that the genocide that's going on in Gaza right now is a women's rights issue, is an LGBTQ issue, is a bigger issue that just highlights how corrupt our Western world is and how corrupt our system is, because all of these politicians, both Trump and Harris, are taking money by horrible organizations, horrible Zionist organizations. And so I think that it's important to keep that in mind, because, everyone's afraid of Trump, myself included, because he's fascist. But I think that, we're already there. And I think that, unfortunately, we think we have more influence than we do with this vote. But both parties are bought out by Zionist organizations. And so I think that's the bigger, overarching reason why this is not a single issue vote.
Have you been yelled at in going to these rallies with this? Have you gone to a rally with this?
I actually haven't been yelled at yet today. One person told me they liked my sign. No one yelled at me, though, which is better than some other times.
Just lastly, what does it say about American democracy that you literally hear about genocide and you feel you have no choice but to vote for a candidate complicit in it because the option is just so much worse? What does that say about the system?
It says that it's horrible. I feel like it's not a democracy. I feel like we are, again, everyone always comments on, Trump is fascist. Yes, he is, but I think we're already in, a fascist system. And so I think that, unfortunately, we don't have democracy. I feel like I hate the whole, voting for the lesser of two evils, because these are both really horrible evils. So my vote doesn't feel good.
Guys, I love it you. I'm a little bit depressed. On the one hand, we've got an ever more extreme right-wing authoritarian movement which draws its well of support from different constituencies. Some of them just raging, committed racists, let's just be honest about it, and others are, I would say, from disillusioned working class communities which have suffered terrible consequences from a broken economic system, and their anger's gone in all the wrong directions. And on the other here, certainly the really committed Kamala Harris sort of supporters, there's not really an understanding of why people who are struggling have been seduced by Trumpism, and they don't have actually any interest, as far as I can tell, in winning them back at all. They're just cast out into outer darkness, and that's the end of it. And that point about Gaza and Israel's genocide, there's a lack, let's be honest, of just basic emotional intelligence. I understand the arguments, of course, about the terrible threat posed by Donald Trump. I get that. There's lots of belittle that. But even if you're going to make the argument that you have to support Kamala Harris for that reason, to just treat a genocide, I think, with the lack of seriousness on display here, as though it's just one issue, why are people so fixated with this? It's a genocide. And I think that is disturbing. And if there are going to be movements which emerge if Kamala Harris wins the presidency to put her under pressure, then it's not going to come from those sorts of constituencies. And the question is, what happens next? Do you have a right-wing authoritarian government which threatens democracy, or a neoliberal government which doesn't do much for many working people and continues to arm genocide? That, in the moment, I'm afraid, is the choice and offer. What happens next is what I'm going to investigate, because we're going to do videos in the aftermath of the election. We're doing elections all through the night. I'll be in New York with the American left. Do check that out. We'll be on air all night long. It's going to be, I'm going to sleep at some point. Press like and subscribe, leave your comments, and to keep the show on the road, go to patreon.com/OwenJones84, or click on the link to do a one-off donation, and we will use that money to hire more videographers. I will see you in New York.